Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 70, Eliminating Your Limiting Beliefs.
Does this sound familiar?
Oh my God, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Small Biz Life. We are super excited to have you here today. So my name's Kristin Ingram.
And I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And if you are new to the show, we are a husband and wife team of small business owners who are walking through this journey with you through what we call the Small Biz Life.
Yeah. This is sort of our way of helping you overcome those problems that are holding you back in your business and in your life.
And if you are a returning listener, thank you so much. And if you have not hit the subscribe button in your podcast player, please do so that way you don't miss an action-packed episode of Small Biz Life.
That's right, because wherever you subscribe to that from, it will deliver this content to you every week. And if nothing else, maybe we're not solving a problem of yours that week, but you can still come along for the ride. If you join our Facebook group, then you can actually help other people get better in those areas too. So it's a wonderful community that we've been building up, and we thank you all who are on the journey with us. Yeah. So the reason that we wanted to talk about limiting beliefs this week is because when we launched the Dreamcatcher assessment, which you can get at smallbizlife.com/dreambig, when we launched that, a lot of people had trouble filling out the first part, which was dreaming big. Mm-hmm. And I did a short video on this on the Facebook page, but I really wanted to take some time to kind of talk about the limiting beliefs that people have that keep them from dreaming big. Yeah, and they happen for a variety of reasons. There's usually a manifest of fear that kind of go along with them. The fear doesn't usually express itself necessarily saying, hey, I'm afraid of this, so I'm doing this, but your fears come up because of these things a lot of times. And sometimes there are things that you need to be concerned about. You should always address them. You never ignore or just try and suppress fear where it might work. Sometimes there are actual real problems that need to be addressed too. But once you start working through and identifying the problems, you can start to work through them. And then they're either not a problem or you figure out that it's just a fear that's causing you to be stopped. Right. So the difference between a fear and a limiting belief is a fear is typically something that is external. So people won't read my book. No one will watch my videos. Whereas a limiting belief is something that you think is internally wrong with you. Mm-hmm. So limiting beliefs are things like, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. They are beliefs that are a lot of times, fed by your fears, but they are internal beliefs that you have. Yes. And a lot of times limiting beliefs are something that are very deep rooted in your psychology. Yep. And I'm a personal believer that they're almost always intertwined with your fears. So on one hand, you have a certain belief about yourself, and then because of that, you come up with fears that help you protect yourself from dealing with that limiting belief. It helps protect you from even being involved in it. Right. And, some of these limiting beliefs, if you think back, they may be things that your parents said to you, that your teachers said to you, that a significant other said to you,
that have become part of who you think you are.
Yeah.
And there are limiting beliefs and there are empowering beliefs. And depending on how you grew up, you may have some of both of these, but it's the limiting beliefs that hold you back.
Yeah, and really too, because like I said, I believe the limiting beliefs connect internally in us to our fears, and fear is a great motivator for human beings to act in certain ways or not to act in certain ways just because they're afraid.
Right. I think a lot of times our fears springboard off of our limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And so if we can start to identify those limiting beliefs and allow them to lose their grip on us, by working on them, then you will start to see that the fears do not rear their head as much.
Yeah.
So that's why we thought, it would be a really good idea to kind of do a whole episode on this and talk about them a little bit. And I'm hoping that once you start to identify them, you can go back to the Dreamcatcher assessment and make some really solid progress on it.
Yeah. I'm a big believer too in addressing my fears and limiting beliefs head on. And that's not necessarily always possible for other people. But I always believe, it's like when I'm building my dreams, I'm looking just beyond the horizon I believe I can achieve. That way I always have motivation to keep moving forward in my life because there's always more people I could help. There's always more love I could feel or share or give. And, so through addressing these problems, I really have the chance to love people better, to be loved better, and to help more people. And that really is the thing that drives my life. So that's why I believe in dreaming big, because it keeps me looking just beyond where I feel comfortable. So I feel the positive stress of trying to get to a better life.
Right. So, it's important to work on these because these limiting beliefs will limit how big you can dream. They will limit how far you can go, because when you have these limiting beliefs, they act like a wall around you and keep you from being the person that you really want to be. Because you always have these voices in the back of your head that say, you're not good enough. You don't deserve that. And so until you can corral those beliefs and get them out of your head, you can't get to where you want to go.
Yes.
And now I'll tell you the opposite of this. So, when I graduated from high school, my sister gave me a paperweight that said, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? And that sat with me to this day.
It's still in the house.
So it's something that really drives me to keep going. And when you have an empowering belief like that, and it is front and center in your mind, so I'm not hearing, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough. I'm hearing, what would you do if you knew you could not fail?
Yeah.
And the difference that has in your life, in your motivation, and in your ability to grow is it's amazing.
Yeah. And in many of the same ways, I think my time in the Army kind of helps me in this area too, because to put it in a bit of a euphemistic kind of way, for me, when target pops up, target falls down. And, and so for me, when I get confronted with challenges, it's a target popping up and I want to make the target fall down. So, that helps me in ways. And so you sort of need to find your own internal empowering beliefs as well too. Embrace those while addressing your limiting beliefs and smashing your fears.
Right. So, what I think would be a really good test for you to help you identify some of these limiting beliefs is go get the Dreamcatcher assessment if you haven't already. And you can go to smallbizlife.com/dreambig, or it's actually at the bottom of the homepage on smallbizlife.com. And as you start going through that assessment and you start dreaming big, those limiting beliefs are going to start screaming.
Yes.
You are going to hear every single limiting belief, and you may hear it in people's voices that you know. It might be, something that someone said to you in the past that somehow really stuck with you. It might have been in a moment that was, critical in your life, and the way that somebody responded to you, it became ingrained in you. And so as you're going through that, have a separate sheet of paper and write them down. Because until we can identify them and identify where they came from, we can't start to get rid of them.
Yep. And sometimes limiting beliefs are due to circumstances in life. So one of the important things with dreaming and dreaming big is you want to readdress your dreams every year, because as you make leaps and improvements in your life, things that once seemed impossible now become more possible. So sometimes there are physical constraints that are holding us back in our lives. If you're struggling, on, $700 a week of income for your family, seeing yourself living large in a good financial position could be very difficult. So I said, always at a minimum, if you think you could see yourself there in 20 years, you're not dreaming big enough yet. So keep going.
Right. And you'll see that, with the dreams that we put together. If I can hit my goal for this year, then I'll hit my dream vision in 50 years.
Which means you're not dreaming big enough.
I know. So I need to go bigger than that, I guess.
But we could readdress that when we do it again next year.
Exactly. But, to start actually writing these limiting beliefs down. Because what happens is we hear the voice in our head and we don't acknowledge it, consciously. Subconsciously, you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
When you hear that. If you start to write them down, and then if you notice that it is something from your past, so let's say it's something that, a family member said to you. Think back to what was going on when you first heard that, and maybe it was something that, there was something else going on. The person was frustrated and they lashed out at you because you were the one that was there.
You'll never be able to do that. You'll never be able to accomplish that. I don't think most parents really wish that on their children, but sometimes it's things they tell their kids.
Right. And so, I want you to spend some time with these limiting beliefs and say, you know what? Maybe this person was just having a bad day and I happened to intersect them at the wrong time. Or maybe this person had their own issues and lashed out at me. And it's not really me. Because that's the thing is that, when we don't address them and we don't try to get some hindsight on them. And I know some of these, I have some very powerful memories from when I was a little kid. And I had to do work with those and say, you know what? It wasn't me. It was that other person.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time when this person lashed out.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, even when we find limiting beliefs, that there are realities and like, I'm not good enough, it allows you to be able to sit there and go, well, if that's a concern of mine, let me address it. One of the tricks I learned when I worked in UPS was to take away people's excuses, so if you work and practice and get better at doing that thing, every time you do that, you get better. And we can tell you all day, your perspective is the most important thing in what you share in your business with other people. But the thing is, if you have that nagging belief in you, it's always going to hold you back. So put a plan together to improve at it.
Right.
And a lot of times it's really simple.
Right. And that's, one of the nice things about the Dreamcatcher assessment is that we have you look at your strengths and your areas of improvement. So that way, even if you think you are a million miles away from your dream vision, you can start moving in that direction. We help you put together an action plan. Because the thing that, it's really important when you have these limiting beliefs, you need to start thinking about what's preventing you from getting what you really want.
Yeah.
And, I think there are a lot of people that think that a dream vision has to be about money and stuff. And our dream visions are about people and experiences.
Well, I think the only one of mine that people would argue is about stuff really is rooted not in the stuff, but in just sort of a pristine place to be able to create it. And it happens to represent a thing, but it is not really the thing itself. It is what that thing would provide me.
Mm-hmm. So which one is that?
That would be the beach home in Belize.
Right.
And the country full of high-speed internet for all people of Belize.
That's right.
Affordable.
That's right. But that's, for you, that's more about the experience.
Yeah.
Right? Than it is about actually having the beach house.
The experience is quantified in this item there, but there's more to it than that. It's, you could have a beach house anywhere. If I dream really big, I could have one anywhere I wanted on earth, but why there?
Right. But mine, even my business goal is about the number of people I want to teach. Even my financial goal is about being able to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? To always be able to say yes. Yep. And for us, we're not stuff people.
Yeah.
We're experienced people.
But too, I think part of it is we have experience in the realms of dreaming big. We have we have momentum starting to move in our direction. And so one of the important parts about having those action steps you get from the Dreamcatcher assessment is it'll start letting you move toward your dreams.
Right.
And once you start moving toward your dreams, you'll be able to see the world in a whole different way.
But, one of the things that may help you if you're struggling with this is to not put dollar values in your Dreamcatcher assessment, because a lot of people have limiting beliefs related to money.
Yeah.
Either because of the way they grew up or, the way that they saw money around them, that is an issue. And so if you find that you've got limiting beliefs that are tied to money, don't make money part of the Dreamcatcher assessment. Even the financial section, again, my, dream vision for finances is to always be able to say yes. So when someone comes with, to me and saying, hey, there's this charity that wants to build a new hospital wing, I want to be able to say yes.
Yeah.
When my alma mater wants to build a new building, I want to be able to say yes.
And what's that dollar amount? We don't know. And that's not the important thing, because really when we talk about dreams, we're trying to create an empowering belief in you about where your life is going. And because those are the anchors that help you progress in life.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things, and we talk about this quite a bit, journaling can help you tremendously. There's, we are not experts on journaling.
No.
But when you are having trouble sleeping, if you're stressed out, if you're not feeling gratitude, journaling is a great way to get those things out of your mind. And
then you can review them to help identify what are those fears, what are those limiting beliefs. You'll have written them down.
Right, exactly. So it's a good way to write it down. And, we've talked about gratitude journaling in here before. I think a lot of times people forget that things are better than they think. And so writing down, whenever you do a journaling exercise, at the end, always write down 3 things you're grateful for. And it could be something, they can be small things. And sometimes you're in the headspace where they can only be small things.
Yeah. And you don't need fancy journals for this. Find paper, open up a computer.
A composition notebook.
A composition notebook is ideal in all circumstances for all things. But, find those, find a way to just write this stuff down. I would advise against using computer screens. There's something about the light that helps keep your brain awake. So it's best not to use computers in bed. But beyond that, find a way to be able to do this. So when those things hit you, you can just journal it down. And then always, especially when it's about the struggles you're having, definitely look at 3 good things in your life, because that will let you know that even though there's bad things there now, there's also good things that I'm not paying as much attention to because of the bad things in my life.
Right. And, a lot of people think that they can just kind of ignore the fear and they can ignore the limiting beliefs and that they will somehow get past them.
Yeah.
You must address these things.
Yeah. Especially like, I think in the last episode, I said you can't ignore people just because they don't support your dreams. You can't ignore yourself when you're not supporting your own dreams. There's a reason why you don't do those things that you could do now to make your life better. There are reasons, and they're your limiting beliefs and your fears. They must be addressed.
Yes. So once you start writing things down, you're going to notice that there are some patterns in this and a couple things that you can do to get past some of these and to start moving in that that trajectory towards your dream vision. So, we kind of talked before, kind of look at these, and try to get some perspective, especially if they're other people's voices. If you have limiting beliefs about your own abilities, the best thing that you can do is educate yourself.
Yes.
Education does not stop when, school is over.
No. Or you're creating a limitation for yourself.
Right. Lifelong learning and expanding your horizons and learning new things will help you create empowering beliefs.
Yeah. And I love learning. I was not a college person. I actually thought many of my professors were...
Watch what you say. You're married to one.
Wonderful people. But, it's like I always felt held back in school. And the nice thing was when I got out of college, I had the freedom to learn things that interested me, which can vary a lot. But and they're not always necessarily even designed as things that I can see helping myself at the next moment of my life. But just because I love that feeling of learning, even if it's something like, I'm learning about, the electric universe, that's really nifty, but it really has no impact on my life directly. I have no desire to become a plasma scientist. But I just like learning things because it helps keep my brain active. It's exercise. It's like doing that workout for your brain. You should be working out your brain every day, just like your body.
Right. And that's the thing. And, I think a lot of times we get into this trap that like, all right, if I'm going to learn something, it has to be related to business. Or if I'm going to read a book, it has to be something on personal development. And I think that having, figuring out what you're interested in, and learning more about it, whatever it is going to help improve you as a person.
Yeah. It helps you learn better. It helps you do research in different areas. And ultimately, we all know that June will be Buy a Fantasy Novel Month, obviously. But, don't deride fiction either. There's always lessons to be learned in fiction. Sometimes not even the ones intended by the author, but the act of reading, even things that are fictional, will improve you. It will work your mind because you're practicing reading and comprehension. And it will maybe expose you to things you're maybe interested in that you've never heard of before.
Right. And one of the best books that I read last year is actually, it's a fiction book that deals with limiting beliefs. It's Life's Golden Ticket by Brendan Burchard. I kind of went through this phase where I read like a whole bunch of his books, and Jeffrey's currently thinking about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I've got a golden ticket.
But the thing that I really like about this book is that it has great lessons in the scope of fiction. And so, I highly recommend if you're having trouble with limiting beliefs and you don't want to read like a traditional self-help book, this is a great book.
Yeah, and
I'll link it in the show notes.
One of the things to keep in mind too is sometimes the dreams that we really have, we don't know until we're exposed to them. And one of the great things about being a well-rounded person is you're exposing yourself to all kinds of new ideas and information. And if you're willing to at least look at it as it passes by, you might find that there are dreams and passions that you've not even introduced yourself to yet. Don't be that person who finds out on their deathbed that, I really wish I knew about this sooner because I would have loved to have done something there. One of the things in business, all people are always looking for is that why, that thing I want to do so much that I will do irregardless of the money I make. That you might not have even met yet.
Right. And that's, it's interesting that you talk about that because when I read Sal Khan from Khan Academy wrote a book called, I think it's called One World Schoolhouse. And that book, he talks about a new model for education where rather than having, all of these people teaching, a subject, that you have, people that are experts in their field that are teaching people over the internet. And then you have like facilitators in the classroom that are, sparring discussion and, helping students on a one-on-one level.
But at a much deeper level than they're allowed to today.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I thought that this was a really neat concept. And, when I had started Accounting in Focus, that's kind of, what I thought. And it was funny because yesterday I got a comment that, from somebody who watched one of my cash flow videos. And he said, I've watched 10 videos on this and yours is by far the best. Most accounting professors don't know how to teach. And so, but think about it. Think about what the internet has done for education that, these students who go and sit through a lecture and go, I don't know what this person's talking about, can go online and find, 20 other professors teaching it and go, oh, this one, okay, I get this one.
And I guarantee you, if you're 40 or older, you've had that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And it was very hard if you're my age or older to be able to address it. You couldn't hop on the Google and Uncle Google could not lead you to the correct answer. It was very unfair, but that was reality. But now, that's the wonderful thing is it's become so much more accessible for us as just normal people to be able to learn. You can get all the free college education you want from MIT. Just go to their website. It's free.
Yep.
It's not going to be easy, I'm pretty sure, but it's not out of your realm of cost. An employer might not recognize that, but if your fear is, well, I'm running a small business and I never went to college, so who am I to do this probably thing that you don't even need college for, but you can address that fear by taking college classes for free online from institutions that people dream about just getting into.
Yep. And that's, the power of the internet, right? Is that we have that ability. I love Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite movies. And, Will Hunting is talking to this guy who's going to Harvard. And he said, I can get the same education that you can, for $5 in late fees from the Boston Public Library. And if you think about it now we have the internet, right?
Yeah.
And you can take courses from MIT and from Harvard and, from, I think Stanford has a whole bunch.
Or if you
online.
can't afford books, go to the Google Books where they have all of the free public domain books.
Yep.
And just, it might not be the latest and greatest books out there, but, there's such a immense amount of publicly domained information that you could learn, from original documents scanned into a computer somewhere, what people in history were talking about.
Right. That's awesome.
And one thing is along too with being a lifelong learner, I believe you have to be willing to invest in yourself for educational purposes. You should have a portion of your budget. It's not going to be huge. It's not going to be like 90% of your budget, but it's going to be probably small, probably less than 5% of your budget that is there to improve yourself, because sometimes there is a cost to things. And part of this too is one, you'll find out right away if you have a limiting factor of whether or not you think you're worth it. Because if you say, no, I'm not worth improving my life with a little bit of the money I've earned, you have to look at that as probably you just found your one of your limiting beliefs. But it's keep it small. You have a budget for it, so there's a plan for the year. When things do come up, when opportunities do come up, you can consider whether or not you can do that at this time, or you have to save for it, or maybe there's something else that you want to do more. But it empowers you to be able to spend money if needed on some of that education.
Yeah, and we typically spend 5 to 10% of our income on education, and that can be that can be a mix of different things. So sometimes there are courses that we're buying. We're going to High Performance Academy in March, which that's like the first official thing that we're doing after you leave your job is we're going to HPA. But doing stuff like that is not cheap.
Mm-hmm. This is also the coaching money for Kristin's business coach, which we love you, Denise. Hopefully you heard that. That would be awesome. But it's it's one of those things where if you're not willing to invest, to make yourself better at helping your family and loved ones and making your life better, and through that, making the lives of the people around you better, you have to ask yourself, is there a limiting belief that's causing me to not be willing to invest in myself? Because you know what? Kristin and I, we love our listeners. We love the people who interact with us on Facebook and Twitter, wherever we interact with people at conferences, and we can have that belief and faith in you all day. We could even say, hey, we have a pay course and we want you to pay for it, but ours might not be the right one. It might be a Brendan course or some other course somewhere that will make your life take that leap to the next level. We can love you and know you can do it and even give you our stuff for free. But if you're not willing to invest in yourself, you're not going to use the free stuff. You're not going to take advantage of it because you'll just think deeper down that, well, I could take this and maybe make my life better, but it won't work because I'm not worth it, or I'm not smart enough, or whatever the limiting belief is that's preventing you from investing in yourself.
Right.
Would you rather have a really nice new car or be able to know that in 5 years, you're going to be in a whole different spectrum of your life than you are today?
And that's why, we said before, we're not stuff people, we're experienced people. Mm-hmm. And that's why we spend a tremendous amount of money on education.
Yeah.
Because...
we are probably at the extreme side of what people would spend.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong, like I said, like probably 3 to 5% is probably, I think, a real rational place to be. And if you're like us and you really have this desire and need to learn, which is part of us, which is probably empowers both of us too, but, it's going to be a little bit bigger. But, at least you can't put away 1% a year to improve your life, to get your life and your family to that next level.
Well, and I think, I think the percentage depends a lot on how you learn.
Yeah.
So, I do like reading books, and I like reading physical books, especially if it's, I just like holding a book in my hand. Like I've tried to do digital reading, and I do some digital reading, but the majority of the books I read, they're, physical books. So that's a little, but that's kind of, you can start there. Where we are right now is we're more into like deep dive courses, or
especially stuff we can keep going back to.
Right.
Because like I said, a lot of the stuff that we need to know will never become true experts at, because that's not what we're doing all of the time. So, you don't maintain what you've learned. So we need to keep going back and revisiting whenever we get to those spots again. That's the stuff that we look for.
Right. And then, the other thing that we're doing a lot of is in-person learning, because that allows you to practice what you're learning, right? If it's developed well, and it allows you to get other people's perspectives, which is fantastic because, when you're at a computer screen and you're watching this information, you need that in-person interaction sometimes, whether it's either in a Facebook group or at a live conference.
And I mean, and the great thing is too, if you have the time to invest and not necessarily the money, that is still an investment. But, it's like if you're going to, most of the people who are known in their areas of expertise, like your Gary Vaynerchuk's or your Brendan Burchard's or your Michael Hyatt's or whoever they are, your Dave Ramsey, one of the reasons they're really well known is because they give away everything that they do. It won't be structured in the most useful way, or it won't be presented necessarily in a path easy to find and put all together. But if you can have the time to put it together, you can get to everything that people are paying for in time. So sometimes if the budget isn't there and you're really tight as a family, you can still, consume what these guys are giving. Go to Uncle Google, follow up, find out more and more and more. A lot of this is where it started for Kristin and I, was hearing podcasts or reading articles online and doing research to follow that up to see, is this person crazy? Is this person, wait, how come everyone else is saying the same thing?
So, and that's kind of what we did when we started releasing products, is we said, okay, we have, 40 to 50 minutes each week to kind of talk to you guys about whatever topic we think is important that week. Yeah. And, for those of you that want to go deeper with things, it's like we've talked about, tasks, and we've talked about, requirements and project management a little bit.
But there's so much, the episode would never end.
Right. So, so we developed Small Biz HQ, which is a monthly membership site. And we said, okay, this gives us the opportunity to go deeper. So like in the month of January, we're doing tasks and task management and project planning. We've talked about Excel a little bit. We've talked about Nosby. We actually did like a 25-minute video on how we use Nosby. Next week we're going into like all different productivity things. So we're going to talk about Pomodoro. We're going to talk about, my monthly, how do I do my weekly planning and how do I do my morning planning? These are things that like we don't have the time to go into that depth in the podcast. Now you can go out and Google and you can find
lots of great tools out there.
Lots of great tools and resources, but our thought with Small Biz HQ is that we could show you how we do things in a video format that condenses everything in one place.
Yeah. And it also gives us the flexibility to for the people who are paying to be able to directly access what their current needs are, to focus on that as well too. So, here we're choosing always what we think is the important thing to talk about, where as we go forward month to month, the topics we go into are from things that we know people in the group need, or we found out in some way. So not only do we get more time to go into more depth, we get to do more research on the people who we're working with to be able to get there.
Right. And so, you have a lot of options out there with the internet, so take advantage of them. Okay, so we talked about education for a long time. But it's something
it's
we're
really important to us. Yeah. There's a reason why 10% of our budget goes to that.
We're really passionate about education. So, okay, so a couple other things. So you need to hold yourself accountable, whether that is through yourself, through systems you build in, through having an accountability partner, through getting a coach. The level of accountability you need. Sometimes it's texting with somebody first thing in the morning. Sometimes you need a coach that you meet with on a weekly basis, or you need a mastermind group. You need to figure out what you need to do so that you can move forward.
Find yourself a mentor. If you suck at health There's things that you could do, but you're not really greatly versed. Look at someone who is healthy and talk to them. And they might be a one-time mentor, or they might end up a lifelong mentor. These are all things that you can do that, will help you move forward.
Yeah. So, the one thing that's really helped me, so one of my friends, Steven Tesler, had a goal. Oh my God, I can't even remember how many miles he wanted to walk last year. I think it was like 4,000 miles. That was his goal. And I'm friends with him on Fitbit. So I see, all of the steps that he's doing every week. And that really inspired me, that I'm going to do like my 10,000 steps, like no matter what, and I see Steve's total and I'm like, he's going at it and I can do it. And I think I'm 26 or 27 days that I've had over 10,000 steps.
Yep.
And I've lost like 7 pounds just from stepping. Yeah. And I'm getting a butt, which is kind of nice because, I've never had a butt before, which makes sitting much more comfortable actually. So, but it's those little things, and like, you may not even realize that you're serving as a mentor for somebody, but being out there and putting your message and what you're doing, can really be helpful for other people.
Or here's another thing too. Sometimes the strategies you need to implement are huge. They either take up a huge amount of budget or a huge amount of time to implement. And this is something I wish actually we did when we came up with new national policies on fixing things. Put together trials and say, okay, if I implement this one thing, like one of my strategies that I've recently started implementing in a trial basis is using more yoga. Because my body is all screwed up. I have pain issues, and can I use yoga to get past it? So I'm starting to do trials to see what works and what does not work for me. I don't necessarily want to fall in love with something and throw myself all in, and then 2-3 years down the road go, you know what? I'm nowhere better off. But can I see, measurable improvements in those parts of my life? So that's one of the things I'm doing. If it holds up true, then that's when you go all in. That's when you go all in. And sometimes you need to go all in up front, but other times, especially the bigger it is, look to set up trials to see if you're starting to see benefits from doing things.
Right. And that's kind of why with Dreamcatcher assessment, we've kind of asked you to pick one thing to work on for like 30 days.
Yeah.
And then you kind of see, like, is that moving me forward? Is this something that I need to work on for another 30 days? Mm-hmm. Or is this something that's not working? I can change course. Yep. But, making a commitment, like that's the thing, it's like I committed, like I'm going to do 10,000 steps for 30 days and kind of see how I feel.
That was actually one of my commitments too.
And, I feel great.
Yeah.
My upper back is a little tight, we got to work on that. And I actually did yoga with Jeff yesterday. But again, it's like we found that on YouTube.
Yeah.
Free. So it's not like we spent like hundreds of dollars on a yoga program.
I went to YouTube and I was looking for other things, but then I'm like, wait, yoga for back pain. Ta-da.
And it was good.
Yeah.
But I found like, I have a lot more energy now. I feel better. I've lost some weight, which makes me happy.
If your problem is you're lacking the energy, there are definitely lots of different things that you can do that you can find for free for research on the internet.
Yep. And it doesn't have to be like an $80 a month gym membership.
Nope.
Most people, if they start walking, they'll start feeling better.
Yeah.
But you've got to take that first step, right? So if you've got this limiting belief that, I'll never get healthy. All right, well, let's do one thing that will make you healthier.
And maybe I can't get 100%, like I can't regrow cartilage in my knee that's missing, but are there things I can do when I get knee pain from that to eliminate it? Are there ways I can make it less likely? And oh, yes, there are. You strengthen the muscles around your leg, and it helps prevent the cartilage from scraping and your knee swelling and you falling over in pain.
Yep. So, start looking at, a couple things that you can do to kind of, punch those limiting beliefs, that, I'm not smart, or I'm not smart enough. And that's the thing that's really tough is when those limiting beliefs come in as I'm not enough, right? Because then it's very difficult to say, well, haha, I beat that. Because, you're never going to, if that's your limiting belief, you're never going to think you're enough.
No.
So, but you can start saying, okay, I'm going to read more books. I'm going to learn more. I am going to, I'm going to teach my 7-year-old how to do their math homework.
Yep.
It's little things like that, when you hear your kid go, wow, you're so smart. Now you have empowering beliefs in your mind, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully you replace that limiting belief with your child's voice saying, wow, you're so smart, So, but you have to put yourself in those situations and develop those habits and those actions that will put you in situations for those to happen.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to, keep yourself in situations where you're just hearing those limiting beliefs in the back of your mind.
Well, one of the great lies that you're going to learn as you start addressing life like this is stress is going to kill you. And it could. There are bad stresses in your life which will shorten your lifespan.
And it almost killed me, so,
But the thing is, there are good stresses too. There are things that bring you excitement and joy. Those are also stresses. Those are also stressors on you. Realize that the more excitement and joy you can bring into your life, the more positive stress you're going to have in your life. The more you're going to achieve no matter what you choose to do. And you know what? Maybe you never get to where you want to be, but if you have an enjoyment traveling there, you're going to have a much better life.
Yeah, and I think that's one place where we are right now. Is like we are just having so much fun doing what we're doing. Like Jeff said last week, making task lists and, doing this like mundane kind of planning that we're doing and saying, all right, what are we going to get done this week? Oh, we're going to create a video for this and we're going to write some copy for that. But it's exciting.
Yeah,
and it's fun.
To be quite honest, full disclosure to the audience, I've been in extreme back pain this whole week. And I mean, to the point of not being able to sleep for a full night. But, I still have an excitement and step. We're still getting the work that we need to get done. Maybe not all of the stretch goals I was hoping to get to. But, when you have an excitement in your life, you don't want it to be held back. And, you will find and learn ways to get past the actual, sometimes real limitations in your life. They can be mitigated, maybe not eliminated, but at least mitigated so you can live life with a little more excitement.
Exactly. And that's what we want for you guys. Yeah. We believe that you all have amazing potential and we want you to see what we see. Yeah. Because one of the awesome things about having this podcast and having the Facebook group, which if you're not in the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/smallbizlife, join the Facebook group. One of the things that's been amazing about this whole thing is the relationships that I've been able to develop and the things I've been able to see in you that you don't see. And I know that you all have amazing potential if you can get your limiting beliefs out of the way.
In a way, our belief systems are much like a pair of glasses. And where if the prescription is right, it will focus and you can see more clearly. But when you have a really bad prescription on your eyes, you will see much worse than you could in real life. So the trick is try and work to make the prescription of your beliefs better, because then you can better see where you're going and be less likely to get hurt on the way.
Exactly. So, if you haven't downloaded the Dreamcatcher assessment, smallbizlife.com/dreambig, and make sure you've got another notebook next to you and start addressing your limiting beliefs, because we see great things for you, and we can't wait till you get there.
This was Small Biz Life.